Lost, found, and now performing, The Golden Cage tells the story of the first refugees from the Holocaust to arrive in America. The refugees came from 18 countries and a majority of them were Jewish. The operetta recalls the refugees' lives in Europe.
And we get no letters.
Their journey across the Atlantic.
It was an awful journey.
And their experiences at the Fort Ontario Emergency Refugee Centre here in Oswego.
The children will be able to go to school.
This is where the refugees first wrote the operetta after World War II ended, hoping to convince the authorities to let them stay. And this is where the historic opera is now staging after 75 years here at SUNY Oswego's Waterman Theatre. However, the operetta had to make its way back to Oswego from Germany. That's because it was lost for more than 75 years until the composer's nephew found the original draft manuscript at his home in Germany, tucked away in an old trunk. He then sent it to Dr. Marilyn Smiley, the president of the Oswego Opera Theatre.
I got this envelope, and in it was the score of The Golden Cage.
Juan Lamana, the co-artistic director of the operetta, says the title, The Golden Cage, is a metaphor for the refugees' lives in the U.S., where all their physical needs were met, but they still did not have freedom.
How did you get out?
I went over the fence.
The refugees, first of all, arrived in New York City, saw the Statue of Liberty. They were very moved, undoubtedly, but then they were put into a train. And for them to be in a train was reminiscent of the horrors of the Holocaust. And then they were taken to a fort with a fence, and that reminded even them of a concentration camp.
After the war ended in 1945, they were required to leave. The refugees then wrote this operetta as a plea to let them stay in the U.S. And with the help of several local and national figures, the refugees were finally allowed to stay. As Benjamin Spearman, the director for Oswego Opera Theatre, says, the story remains relevant today because of the ongoing immigration crisis.
As a Jew, this really hits home because we're in a time now when immigrants, refugees, those who people would call aliens are under, a constant sort of attack.
Even though none of the refugees is alive, their descendants were invited to watch the operetta. I could not find anyone in attendance, but a recording of the operetta will be made available for streaming for the public in about a month. At the Waterman Theatre, Clarissa Karki, Oswego Now.